All right, so today is, I don't know what chapter we're on now, 1, 2, 3, chapter 4 of building the foundations of your King Solomon kingdom, right? So we don't build the roof first, we build the foundation first. And there's God has given us a blueprint on how to build those foundations. And building foundations isn't fun because it often feels like we're not making progress. We're doing the base work. It's like you're an athlete or a pianist and you're practicing scales. It doesn't seem much fun. Or if you're a soccer player, you're just practicing basic dribbling and basic passes, and we want to get on to the good stuff, right? But building the foundations is so important. It's like it says, when you build your house on the rock, right, it will withstand the winds and the rains. So let's stand together and persevere and really do the tough work of building the foundations, because the days of building the framework, building up, are coming. All right, praise God. All right, so I'm going to share. All right, PowerPoint. Let's see here. There we go. All right, chapter 4, the Planning Cornerstone. Kind of boring for people that don't like to plan, but kind of necessary. All right. So just to review, we have the platform of relationship, we have the cornerstone of equipping, the spiritual cornerstone, and the planning cornerstone. And we've got one more next week. Then we'll move on to another topic. All right. So the importance of a written plan, Habakkuk 2:2. Then the Lord answered me, write down this vision and clearly inscribe it on tablets. It says clearly, and that's going to be our major theme for today. Clearly inscribe it on tablets so that a herald may run with it and spread the news and share it widely. I added that, of course. And Jeremiah 36:2 says, take a scroll and write on it with all the words I have spoken to you concerning Israel, Judah, and all the nations from the day I first spoke to you during the reign of Josiah until today. So it's not just writing down the plans, it's writing down the prophetic words, the dreams, the directions. It's write everything down. So we have actually where we're storing all of our written information at this time. Anyways, we have a Dropbox account where everybody on Grand Council is uploading their documents. And so one of those folders is for dreams, visions, and prophetic words. We all write them down and upload them all there. So encourage that for everybody within their kingdoms to be doing that. You can do it by video, or because of course they didn't have video back then, or writing it down. We try to record everything both ways, just as a backup, I guess you could say. Yeah. All right. So there's 4 parts to the Planning Cornerstone. So the vision, right? You have to have a vision. You have to, it's like, I call it the tree on the horizon. You have to know where you're going, right? If you're planning a trip to, let me just pick Paris. That's a great city. If you're planning a trip to Paris, right? If you're planning a trip, you need to know where you're going, right? We're going to Paris, we're going to Toronto, we're going to LA, we're going to Milan. You need to know where you're going so that you can plan accordingly. All right. Survey the situation. So basically that's, what do you have in your hand? What do you have to work with? What's the status right now that you're starting to build from? All right. And then 3 is the blueprint and the strategy. So a blueprint is what you're going to do. And the strategy is how you're going to do it. All right. They're 2 different parts of the same thing. And then 4th is the authority and the legal permission to do what you're going to do. That's the last part of the planning strategy or Planning Cornerstone. All right. So let's just review the vision. All right. Looking at it from a few different ways, but if you remember, the dream that kind of launched everything was that song that rose up from the children's hearts as they were playing in that Olympic stadium, and the song rose up and it filled the adults in the bleachers, and it filled the hearts of the families all around the world. And it brought peace and love and joy and oneness to everybody, came together as opposed to splitting apart and fighting. So the song, some of the lyrics were like, I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand, singing songs of peace that echo through the land. So remember, there was the power of the children to change the world, bringing peace, love, and joy, the good news of Jesus Christ, and so on. So remember, that is part of the vision, is it's all about the children, right? The power of the children, and that we're raising them to be world changers and community leaders, right? Remember, part of the vision is the 14 mountains. Each kingdom would have all 14 aspects of community. So it's building, starting with 1 or 2 or 3 of those mountains, and then adding on another mountain as we built, right? That's part of the vision. All right. And I put together some slides. So this would be the farming, right? Let's have a visual. We have the round, everybody remembers that 14 mountain round diagram, but let's fill in some blanks. Let's really get a clear vision of what each of those mountains will look like. So this one obviously is the farming mountain. So look here, look at all these crops. Look at them all. Aren't they beautiful? The way they're laid out, right? Strategically laid out. Look at the color in them, the shapes. It even looks like a painting, to be honest with you, like an abstract painting, right? And so lush and different shades of green. It's beautiful. That's what our the farming mountain will look like. Children raising feeding the chickens, alpaca and sheep. God was very insistent, grow alpaca and sheep. This is a native, they're drying some, I think it's mushrooms or chaga or something like that. They're drying it, drying or curing it. And so basically, let's think of the cultural ways of farming. Of course, there's many varieties of colorful fruit here. And of course, we have the children here interacting with the livestock. This is what our farming mountain will look like. And this isn't actually necessarily one of the mountains, but one of the core values is, he says, build the Garden of Eden. It should look like heaven on earth. And so this slide just shows what would the Garden of Eden look like, right? And these are real life, these are real things. Like this one over here where where the flowers are growing from the ceiling. This is actually, it's not a Photoshopped thing. This is in Singapore. This is a real thing, right? But I mean, if I were to imagine the Garden of Eden, I would see that, right? And look at the colors, the shapes. Look at like the patterns on the ceiling, the wavy shapes, just the impossibility of flowers growing upside down, and that we're in God's kingdom, everything's possible, right? But look at the lushness, the color. Even this garden here, it's all green, but look at the textures and the shapes of it. Look at the wavy path, the pathway is a wavy line, right? Different random shapes and textures and heights. And then over here, look, this is the ceiling of a pergola that's absolutely lush with leaves and greenery. And here, a vertical garden, right? Let's think of vertical gardens. What would that look like? What if we had a wall of herbs? The fragrance of the herbs, and just a huge selection. Instead of going to your cupboard and pulling out a jar of spice or like herbs or spices, you go to the wall and you pick this leaf and a little bit of that leaf and a little bit of the other leaf and grind it all together, right? Or chop it up together. What about a wall of herbs and spices, even medicines. There's a pool. This one's a man-made pool, but this is what the kingdoms will look like. And I know this seems like such a stretch, like think of Africa, right? Where the poorest countries in the world, most of them are in Africa. And this might seem like such a stretch, especially where there's, drought and there hasn't been rain for years in some places in Africa, right? And water is claimed to be a shortage. There is no shortage of water in the world. 71% of the surface of the earth is covered in water, and that doesn't even account for the water that's underneath the surface of the waterways, and the water that's underneath the earth, the springs. There is lots of water in the earth. There's no shortage of water. The problem is that it's inaccessible, right? To some certain countries that are landlocked. So water is inaccessible, or there's sin on the land that has not been prayed off. Or the water is hoarded by corrupt governments, or corrupt groups of people. The water is hoarded. So the problem is access to the water, not that there's a water shortage. But anyways, I was digressing there. Anyway, look at this. This is even in Africa, God is saying this is what we are to build. All right, let's stretch our imaginations. All right, this is the housing slide, right? Circular walls, right? Circular rooms. In heaven, there is, and I can't remember how many cubits. It says that it's so many cubits wide, so many cubits deep, and so many cubits high, which is a cube. But it does say that the throne of heaven is round. So anyways, what about round walls? Look at this building here. Right? These are all made of, I'm not sure if we consider glass a natural product, but anyways, these are all made from natural materials. Same with this one here. This one's made with cob and timber. There may be hemp bricks in there. I'm not quite sure. Look at this walkway. This is in a house. Look at the colorful walls here. This is what we're to build for housing. All right, and this is the Entrepreneurship Mountain, right? So markets where we're selling our produce. Look at how beautiful that produce looks, right? Even, and this is the local level, the kingdom level on this right here, so selling our produce. Even breads, our art project, like weaving that the children do, even sewing products, and even home construction. Once we get really good at it, we can get into home construction. These are all at our kingdom level. Then, of course, at the international level, there's Hesed gold, there's Hesed hemp, which and guys, I just made these up. We will get a graphic designer to design things, but here we have hemp bricks. This is ethanol, the chemical formula for ethanol, and this is hemp fiber for clothing and rugs and curtains and stuff. And then, of course, Hesed bank. All right, let's think on these scales. This is the vision that we're heading towards. All right, what about the transportation mountain? We haven't been dealing a lot with that, where it's a bit, I think, a little early to start thinking about that. But horses, he said, get into horses, get really good at raising horses, right? And here's some children, and we need to be very good horsemen, have very good horsemanship. We can use horses for plowing fields. We can use horses for transporting goods and people. All right, and this is about education, right? So not in a classroom with desks all lined up in a row and textbooks. That's not the way we do education. Right here, very hands-on, tactile, touching, feeling, experiencing, learning. Look at how these three children here, they're exploring together, they're touching things, they're learning about life cycles, seeds, and leaves, it looks like. So life cycles of natural things, right? But they're doing it in community, learning together. They're exploring. Here they're learning architecture, right? They're building sandcastles on a beach. They're learning what's going to stand up and what won't, right? But they're learning through fun. Look at the smiles on their faces. Look at how they're working together, right? Instead of independently at a desk reading a textbook. Right here, this girl's learning about, planting seeds. Look, she's very hands-on. Look how happy she is, right? Over here, they're learning, again, architecture with blocks and bits of wood, right? Again, hands-on, learning about life cycles. And here, look, very communal. What they're all, the teachers sitting with them. Look at the interaction on their faces, right? Look at how there's a relationship being built with the teacher and the children, right? Very cooperative, very kind of in the moment, very real, very, very relational. All right. This is our education mountain. Okay, this is our sport mountain. We really need to rethink how we're doing sports. Look at this, obstacle courses, right? Where we're learning physical literacy. I won't go into this now. Maybe we'll do another segment on physical literacy, but climbing is a physical literacy skill, right? There's a lot of, you're lifting your body weight. There's coordination, there's balance in this. These are all physical literacy components. There's speed involved in this. Looks like they're racing maybe. All right. Archery, we need to get into archery and target shooting. And I found this picture, a little girl, blonde ponytail and a pink hoodie shooting a gun. We make it fun. It's target shooting. But unfortunately, these children are going to face times where they need to know how to use a gun. But she's not afraid. She's not learning fear. She's just learning how to shoot at a looks like a tree stump where somebody's painted an orange dot, right? And of course, archery. And even, yes, definitely team sports, right? There's so much to learn from team sports, cooperation, leadership, patience, perseverance, grace, right? And even the health components, right, of endurance and, the mental health, it eliminates mental health issues. All right. And here, this guy's, it's more, again, an obstacle course. He's balancing, right? This is sport. This is how sport will be done in our kingdoms. And these kids, they're just running. They're just running, right? I'd like to see, this is a picture I found through Canva, but I'd like to see some good footwear on their feet, but that would be the sports coach in me. But you see what I mean? See, look, they're having fun. They're doing it together. They're learning relevant and practical skills, right? All right. The Discipleship Mountain, right? I have to say, this is one of my favorite pictures, maybe of all time. Look at the face of this girl. Look at how, her eyes are closed. She is having an encounter with God in this moment, right? Like I see the word adoration. I see the word praise. I see the word awe. And look at the other faces. Look at this boy here. Look at his face, right? Look at this one here. He's just in peace. His head is tilted to the side. Now, this girl here, she's really having a moment of hearing him, right? She's hearing him and really tuning into him. Look at all of their faces, right? How they're relating to God, the one true God. This is what discipleship looks like, right? And like this, look at this little girl reading her Bible in her own quiet time with God. That's what our discipleship mountain looks like. This, I just picked this one, running toward him. It's totally submitted to him, right? And walking hand in hand with him. This is our discipleship mountain. This is our solar and water mountain, right? Wind power, solar power. And again, we have to, I mean, right now it could be solar panels on a roof, that's where, that's a starting point, but at some point we're going to need a field of solar panels to run our kingdoms, natural water sources, right? Collecting using rainwater. I think at some point we need to have water towers, irrigation systems, clean drinking water. We can drink it right from the tap, from our wells. This is the water and power mountain. All right. Okay, so that's vision. I just want to go back here. Let's just stop and take any comments, questions, right? In our planning, we need to have a vision of where we're going, right? What's the tree on the horizon? We have to be able to see it. And the more detail, the better. I want to, I hear somebody has a question or a comment, I think. All right. All right, if you do, just speak up. I want to show you, here's a great way to do visioning, all right? There's, I think most North Americans are familiar with it, a program or I think they call it, I think it would be considered a social media platform maybe, but it's called Pinterest. And so I'm just going to share with you my Pinterest account. I'm not a huge Pinterester. I use it for visioning, really, is the only thing I use it for. But here it, actually, let me just go back. Yeah, so here you see this is my account, right? And then you can have categories. I never created one for shopping list. I don't shop here, but anyway, see, designs for clubhouse and chapels, pools, arbors and stuff. What kind of furniture would we have? Natural homes, gardening, bringing the outside in. So these are all categories that I created, or folders that I created, and then they just pop up different ideas, right? So here, this one here, I don't know if all of the materials on this one are all natural. I'd have to investigate it a little bit, but just, look at these designs, right? Over here, they just give you ideas and allow you to vision what the blueprint that God has given. All right, so yeah, I'll just scroll through so you can see. I think anybody can go on Pinterest, and I think you can even go to my account, like you look up my account and you can go into my folders and just, but I encourage everybody to make your own as well, and just start, it comes up with ideas, like photos of ideas that are in line with what you're searching for. And then you can save them to your account so you can go back to it. It makes it easy to vision, right? And it doesn't make it easy to vision. It actually opens your mind to more ideas than you thought possible. And it stimulates your creativity. Oh, now we're into furniture. I mean, this is furniture I would choose. Not everybody likes bold, bright colors and stuff, but I like things from different countries. Like I'm very, this is Asian. This would be kind of, an African or South American design. Same with this. Yeah. So you just come up with, ideas to vision. All right. So it's called Pinterest. If I go to the top here, where does it say that? Where does it say that? Oh, maybe I go back. It doesn't say it here, but Pinterest, Pinterest. Yeah. All right, so let's go back here. Stop share and go back to the PowerPoint. All right. Any questions so far? Comments? Is this a stretch? It's like, how the heck are we going to do this? I think that's normal to think that way, but let's let God.
I think it's really good, Kate. I think the fact that we expose ourselves to more, I like the point that you made about how it stretches your vision, exercises your creativity with just finding out these different ways of either building or ways of doing things. And it does, it really, the more you expose yourself, the bigger picture that you have, and you're right, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Amen. Absolutely. And, think back to, we all grew up in this right here, desks lined up in a row, rote memorization, right? We had a in my growing up, we had a textbook for every subject, right? It was very regimental, not creative whatsoever. I don't remember ever doing anything like this here. I think I remember one time going to a field trip to a beach, but it was just, a field trip is like a day off school kind of thing. I think maybe one time we went to a farm. Let's see. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we went to a farm. I remember actually when I lived in Germany, one field trip, we spent a week at a castle in France. Oh, that was cool. It was a winery based at a castle. We actually stayed in straw mattresses in the castle, like the servants' quarters, and we actually were involved in this was in grade 4, guys. We learned how to make wine at grade 4. My goodness, memory lane. Anyway, but that's cool. Like things like that were cool. But so we grew up with this. So we were taught to don't think outside the box. Color within the lines. The grass must be green. The sky must be blue. There was no room for creativity. Or maybe we had art class, but the teacher had an example of what we were to create, and we had to make it the same way he or she created it, right? So it's really hard for us to move to this because we never experienced it. So this is where we really need to rely on God. So you're right. Yes, when we're looking at things like Pinterest, it really helps us break out of what we learned. Yeah, Ephraim. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, with God we believe can do, and nothing is impossible with him. Absolutely. Amen. So, all right, let's move forward. And this is where we rely on the kids too. Remember, so we're raising the kids like Mary and Joseph raised Jesus. They knew they were raising the Messiah, right? So how did they do that? Well, they gave him the latitude to be God, but they were still his parents, providing and protecting, right? And nurturing. So we can look to the children for a level of creativity that we may not have. All right, let's move on to the second. Remember, there were 4 parts to planning. The second one is survey the situation. All right, so some scriptures. These are long. Whoopsies. What did I do there? There we go. Let's just take turns reading. Some of them are long, so I might stop you partway through. I just want us to get an idea of how God sees planning. But somebody want to read Nehemiah 2:11-16? Let's see. Honesty, you want to read that? Oh, go ahead, Rachel. Yep.
Just a minute for me to find it.
It's on the screen. If you can see it, it's on the screen.
Okay. I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few others. I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. There were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on. By night, I went out through the valley gate toward the Jackal well and the Dung gate, examining the walls of Jerusalem, which had been broken down, and its gates, which had been destroyed by fire. Then I moved on toward the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through. So I went up the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally, I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had paid nothing to the Jews or the priests or nobles or officials or any others who would be doing the work.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. Yeah. So mount in this case would be a horse, right? So what do we glean from this? So this is Nehemiah, right? Nehemiah, if we look prior to this, let's get context. He had he was the cupbearer for the king, and he had gotten permission from the king miraculously to go back and rebuild the wall of his city. So Nehemiah, some built the temple, some built the city. Nehemiah was charged with rebuilding the wall around Jerusalem. So very specific assignment. And the king let him go, right? He was a captive and the king let him go. Anyways, that wasn't my point, but so he gets to Jerusalem, right? What do we note about this? He's surveying the situation, right? He's examining what is here now that I have to work with. What's my starting point, right? What else are we noticing about this as he's surveying the situation? Is it detailed or is it kind of broad?
For me, it looks like details because he's talking about, he's giving some details.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the same thing. And he's documenting everything, right? He says this is like a diary. He says, I moved on toward the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through. He recorded in great detail the process of surveying the situation, right? And yeah. And he also noted yet that it was prudent for him not to tell everyone where he was or what he was doing. I understood it, and maybe in another, oh yeah, by night. Yes, I was going to say he went in the darkness, right? By night I went. So he did this very, quietly, and he flew under the wire, right? So this is important. So before we're kind of announcing to the world what we're doing, we need to keep things a little quiet for I think to protect what we're doing. All right, let's move forward. Joshua 2:1. Honest, do you want to read Joshua 2:1?
Please, it was Nehemiah, what?
Nehemiah 2:11-16.
And this reminds me, as I was saying somewhere, the need of discretion. And that's remind me the way the Jews with Esther were able to, to win the fight against, who was he again? The one who set the plot and against Mordecai and the Jews. And you see the way Esther was, she didn't say anything at the beginning till the point, a crucial point. So, and this absolutely remind me what Nehemiah is talking about again today. So it's very crucial, discretion. Till God's timing.
Yeah. And one thing God did say to me was, he's saying, fly under the wire for as long as possible. And that's an English expression for, don't be obvious. Like a bird flies under the wire, like stay low to the ground. Don't be obvious. To particularly to governments, other religions, if you're living in a Muslim territory, for example, even family, sometimes, because there's no sense waking up the enemy before we need to actually engage in battle. So yeah, that was very specific instruction for us. And one reason for going to rural land, he was very specific, build in rural places so we can be out of the eye of the, controlling governments. All right. Honest, are you good to go for Joshua 2:1?
No. Yeah, sorry, the electricity is gone. So
okay.
I was trying to figure out how I can continue without electricity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, God, we'll do this, just pray really quickly. God, we just pray for a divine, whether the electricity comes back on or somehow you find a way to power on his phone so he's able to continue with the call. But God, we just ask you for a divine intervention and bring electricity to Honest. Charge the battery on his phone, keep it charged so he can continue. In Jesus' name. Yeah.
Amen, amen.
All right, so I'll just quickly read it. So Joshua 2:1, then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim, go look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. So, basically, he sent the spies into the promised land to investigate what's there, right? All right, and this one is quite long. It's a few pages, so I'm just going to skim through some spots just to get an idea, right? I think this is the detail that he wants us to gather when we're surveying the situation. It says, the Lord said to Moses, send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders. So there's a specific instruction. From each ancestral tribe, send one leader. Okay. So at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out of the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. These were their names. And I skipped this part because there's several lines of this person from that tribe, that person from that tribe, very, very specific. And it was all recorded. All right. And continuing on from that list of people he sent, he says, when Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, go up through the Negev and on into the hill country. See what the land is like and whether the people live there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good? Is it bad? What kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruit of the land. And so in other words, bring back some samples of what you see. You know, so at the end of 40 days, even the amount of time, 40 days they spent exploring. And then they came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. There they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. All right, so it was very, very detailed. God says, gather as many details as possible and record it, right? They recorded everything. All right. Oh, I thought I had more scriptures than that, but anyways, I think everybody gets the idea. All right. It's a very important stage in developing your written plan, right? So here are some questions, and, you know, maybe take some screenshots if you want. But here are some questions to ask. And this is based on the blueprint, the vision, the mission, the core values, the direction that God's saying for us to go. I base these questions on that. So the first one is, how much land is available? And are you able to even purchase or attain a small portion, like say 20 acres? But then is there room to expand later on? This is important because we're to expand our tent pegs later on. And even if we only start with 20 acres, are we able to expand it? Are we able to get a title deed? He said, make sure even if the land is given to you, gifted to you, you get the title deed. And here's why. We've experienced it twice on 2 occasions where our people have been gifted land, but then the government changed over and took the land from them. And it's biblical. The land of Goshen was given by Pharaoh to Joseph's family, right? But then I'm not sure how long later, but Joseph had died. And I believe maybe it was a new Pharaoh, but the people took the land back because Goshen was choice land. It was very good quality land. But when it says the people forgot about Joseph and they took the land back from Joseph's family. So we have to be able to get a title deed, whether we purchase it or it's gifted to us. All right. Is it in a rural area? God says build in a rural areas away from the cities. And there's a reason for that, but I won't get into that quite yet. The cities are going to be destroyed some way or another. I have 2 different sources for how they'll be destroyed. Well, one was from God, then 2 other earthly sources. So away from the rural areas. Is the land flat, mountainous, rolling hills? Is it on a slope? Is it fertile land? Do you have to clear the land of rocks, trees, or brush? If so, how much of it? Is it on a floodplain? Have chemicals been used on this land before? Avoid land that's had chemicals on it. What resources can you use from the land to build infrastructure, like wood for fences and houses and barns, right? It's amazing what you can use that's already on the land. It's amazing if you really look and ask God to open your eyes to see the resources that are already there. Is there more land available to expand later, and how much is available, right? Resources and climate. Is there a source for water? He said, all of your land, there must be a source for water. So it could be for underground, digging wells. It could be a lake, a river, a waterfall, the ocean, because you can desalinate water. Is there a dry season, a rainy season? Will you require irrigation? Is it windy? How many hours of sunlight are in each season? How much natural wood is available? What is the average temperature in each season? The reason for that question is, like in Canada, for example, we can't grow crops in the wintertime. We have maybe a 4-month growing season, maybe. And so we need to have greenhouses to grow crops for the winter, during the winter time. All right. What is the average temperature? What existing, and then sometimes there might be existing buildings and infrastructure that you can use. So the Demessas, there was a mink farm. They grew mink, which is a small animal, I guess, with beautiful soft fur. So they had a large barn available to them. All right. Legislation, whoopsies, go back. Oh, goodness. There we go. Legislation. Are there building codes and covenants? Like, what kind of hoops do you have to jump through to get this land, right? Are there, like, I can speak for Canada, like certain, there's land that we have been praying about near Indian Brook here in Canada. So I asked, how has the government coded this land? What are the building codes for this land, or designated for this land? So it had been, it was beautiful. It was designated for farmland. So the government had approved it for farmland, had approved it for commercial land, meaning we could put a farm, like a market stand there to sell things. It was approved for residential. And I think there was a fourth. There's another kind of code where it says you can have more than one house on it. So anyways, it had all the codes that we needed, is what I'm saying. So other land might not have been approved for farming. So then we would have to go to the government and get approval for farming for that land. So basically you need to know what government covenants and restrictions are there. All right. Do you need permits to build houses, commercial buildings, dig wells, grow crops? You need to investigate all of this so you can make your written plan. Are there regulations about running a school in your country, in your region, right? So for example, I know in Ethiopia, you must have a school in Ethiopia. You must deliver the government's curriculum. You must. So they have a standardized curriculum. And Ethiopia is a, in many ways run as a communist country. It used to be communist. They came out of that, but from what I see, it is still a communist country. And it is primarily Muslim and Orthodox, Ethiopian Orthodox. For religion. So there's a lot of complications, let's say, for running a school in Ethiopia. All right. Okay, farming. What crops go well in this climate and terrain? What crops are in high demand? Like think of sales. What are you going to be able to sell? What crops reap the highest profit margin in this region? A profit margin is the difference between the cost of growing or producing something and the cost of selling. That margin, that difference, that's your profit margin. All right, what animals do well in this climate and terrain? Will you need greenhouses? What equipment do you need for farming? All right, culture and demographics. Is this land close to a lot of vulnerable children? Because remember our core values, remember our mission is to reach the most vulnerable children of the world and raise them to be world changers and community leaders, right? Are you near a lot of vulnerable children? Are you near a known lost tribe of Israel, right? So remember, another of our purposes, our missions, is to unite the lost tribes of Israel and preserve the remnant of Israel. All right. So for Canada, by the way, guys, that is First Nations children. Just an FYI. So I think you're near the reserve of probably Glooscap is the closest one to you. Not quite sure, but I think that's the nearest one to you. All right. What is the major religion of this region? Right. So are you fighting Islam, Hindu, so on? What kind of government is in power? Liberal, conservative, democratic, totalitarianism? Or another question is, it could be, is what is it turning into? Because a lot of governments are changing right now. So there's, like, for Canada, for example, is used to be, well, they would say democratic, but really it is now turning into a totalitarian government, and it's it's declares itself a democracy, but it's a, what I call it, not blinded. It's not necessarily democratic anymore. So it's a deceived democratic or something like that. Yeah. All right. Okay, now this is, I mean, it's all important, but spiritual mapping, this is one that's often forgotten. All right. Now, you need to know what assignments and what altars are on that land, right? So we do what's called spiritual mapping, right? So I think I said this before in the spiritual cornerstone from last week, is sometimes there has been something that happened on that land, or an assignment on that land from history that you're not aware of, you know, because of course it's in the spiritual realm. And, you know, a new, I think I used the example last week of a chief of or a new mayor of a town can come in, but if there have already been ungodly covenants and evil altars established there, a new mayor or a new chief or whatever can come into that and lead that town. But unless the altars are cleaned or torn down, that mayor with good intentions will not succeed. And now, Rachel, maybe help me out with this. I'm recalling a scripture where a king, a good godly king became king of Israel and did good, like he changed everything to God's ways, but it says he didn't tear down the altars. And I'm not sure. Yeah, he didn't tear down the altars. So in the end, all the work he had done was destroyed.
I don't know if you are talking about, I don't know if it's Saul, because it looks like he did. It's when the Lord said obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yeah.
What was the point you were saying? Like he was the king in.
The point was that unless we tear down the evil altars, all our work will be destroyed. All our good work for the Lord will be destroyed. It's not Jehoshaphat. I don't think it was Jehoshaphat. Was it Jehoiakim? One of those. It's one of those kings.
Okay.
We were thinking Josiah.
Jedediah?
Oh, Josiah.
Josiah, was he a king?
I think Josiah was a prophet.
He was a prophet.
Oh. Okay, maybe I am thinking of someone else.
No worries, no worries. I just read it last week. And I was like, oh, I should write that down. Yeah, there was one king, like something like Jehoiakim or something like that, and where did everything for good, and near the end of his reign, it was all undone because he didn't tear down the altars. the evil altars. So, back to spiritual mapping. We will
Okay,
either
my son is telling me that Josiah was a king. So
Oh.
there is Joshua and there is Josiah. So he's saying Josiah, which in French is Josias. He was a king.
All right, there we go, Heidi. So
He was a king at 8 years old.
love it. Oh, oh, wow. There's an example. There's a perfect example. An 8-year-old boy knew the truth.
Reminded by my 12-year-old son.
Oh, 12-year-old. There we go. This is exactly what we're talking about, that they will know, like they will do much greater things than us. Oh my goodness. Thank you, God. It's already starting. All right. So, yeah, so basically let's look at what we need to look at. We can look historically. What is the history? Was there slavery, war, genocide, other atrocities? Could be rape, could be colonization from European white colonists. Basically anything where there's bloodshed and torture and that sort of thing. What kinds of things happened historically on this land? Is there a history of witchcraft, Freemasonry, child sacrifice, animal sacrifice, solstice celebrations, and so on, things like this, right? Is there currently any evil? Because if there was in the past, you'll see it today, right? It'll manifest today, and it'll be bigger than it was in the past. Like it'll be just bigger than it was in the past. Now it might be secretive. That's the key. It's still happening, but it's secretive. Things like underground caves, underground tunnels, like it's a thing. So you can look at what's currently going on. So is there a work of the mafia, Freemasons, gangs, spiritists, psychics, witches, brothels, goodness. Just do a mapping of what's there on the land. And the thing is, let's say, I know some people, intercessors, have gone into a town or a village, and they've just been interceding and hearing God and knowing how to intercede. And before they didn't really understand why they were praying what they were praying. But what happened was a witch in a particular village all of a sudden picked up a closed up shop and left. They didn't even know she was there. But the Lord had given them the words to pray, and this witch was forced out of the village, and she left. But they didn't even know she was there. So there needs to be you need to ask for, divine wisdom of what's functioning on that land. All right. What religious denomination is predominant? If it's Catholicism, you need to look a little deeper again, stuff that goes on there. Is there a high crime rate? What kind of crimes are prevalent? So these are manifestations of evil altars on the land. If there's a high crime rate, high death rate, high, an abortion clinic. There we go, abortion clinic. Yeah. What principle? So basically just look for all the symptoms and manifestations, and then start to make a map, right? There are, there are books and resources. I don't know if I have any PDF. I probably do have some PDF copies, but where you can see, if there's a high death rate, for example, there's evidence of witchcraft. I mean, a lot of it's just based on witchcraft, but anyway, all that to say, we have the power to pray off, clean these altars by praying and interceding to the courts of heaven. And we can also physically, sometimes God will just say, tear them down. If there's a physical altar, just like they tore down the Asherah poles, right? Sometimes God instructed them to physically tear them down. So basically, when you're doing your planning, surveying the situation, do the spiritual mapping. All right. Okay. What are the obstacles? Okay. So is it government, instability, corruption, or legislation? What are the economic conditions? Is there instability, inflation, a low dollar value, poverty? Is there social unrest or war, religious conflict, poverty and lack, particular spiritual dominion that have people stuck in bondage, and availability of equipment? Things are just not available. All right. What are your obstacles? All right. I think that's all for, yeah. All right. Any questions on that before we move on? So that was part 2. Survey the situation. What do you have in your hand? All right. Any questions on that? Something to add?
Just a quick question about each of these pages. I'd love a copy. I've been taking screenshots, but I'd love a copy of them. I'm not sure if I can print them from here or if you have like a PDF or anything, Kate.
Yeah, let me make a note. I can just send you, it's PowerPoint. I can just send you the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Oops.
I don't know if what we were talking about is in 2nd Chronicle from chapter 36. Anyway, around that, because it's talking about Josiah as a king. And but he's the one, he did well and he honored God all his the time he was a king. So I don't see where.
Okay. Let me I'll have to backtrack where I was reading last week. I to find out who that was. Let me just Google it really quickly on my phone. King. Okay, so I'm seeing Hezekiah. 2nd Chronicles 32:12. Let's see if that's the one.
32:12. I was not too far. Oh, this is in French. 32:12. Ezekiel.
Yeah, Hezekiah.
Yeah, Ezekiel. Okay, 2nd Chronicle, 32:12. But he tear down the
So Hezekiah did do right in the eyes of the Lord, right?
Yeah.
He was a good king. So in 32:12 it says, did not Hezekiah himself remove God's high places and altars, saying to Judah, Jerusalem. I'll have to take the time to really read that.
Because what we are saying, maybe someone who didn't do well. So that's why I stopped reading, because I don't know if that's what we are looking.
I thought let's see, I'm seeing another thing here for Jehoshaphat.
Did not Ezekiel himself remove these God's high places and altars, saying to Judah and Jerusalem, you must worship before one altar and burn sacrifices on it? Do you not know what I and my predecessor have done to all the people of the other lands? Were the gods of those nations ever able to deliver the land from my hand?
So for Jehoshaphat, it's saying, this commentary says, made a good start in removing the high places, but he didn't address the real problem, the desire of the people to worship idols. Thus, as his reign continued, the high places were rebuilt, and eventually Jehoshaphat stopped removing them. Okay, so that it's not the same as what I had read last week, but what it does say is the importance of evil altars. And the impact they have on what you're trying to do. Yeah, and it says Jehoshaphat stopped removing them. Oh, here, and then it says, and then Asa did good and right in the eyes of the Lord, for he removed the altars of the foreign gods and the high places and broke down the sacred pillars and cut down the wooden images. Right. So I think, without taking the time to really dig deeper, what we are seeing is the importance of removing the altars, right? So if new altars are evil altars are erected, it will cause the demise of the people and the land. And likewise, when we tear them down, it frees the land and the people to receive the blessing of God. How do we feel? Do we feel, is that a biblical not assumption, but do we feel that that's fair to say? Let's put it this way so that we can move on. Let's put it this way. Let's that can be a homework, is to investigate that biblically. What happens when evil altars are left on the land and not removed? What happens when they are removed? What's the difference? There we go. All right. So let's move on to the third part of the Planning Cornerstone, and that's the blueprint and the strategy. So remember, the blueprint is what we're going to build, and the strategy is how we're going to build it. So strategy includes timing, extra information about it, and that sort of thing. Blueprint is basically a written, well, it's a blueprint. It's a drawing, right? All right. Again, lots of scripture. So I got everybody to read here. So Genesis 6:4. I should have not put the answer here, but Genesis 6:14-16. Honest, you're busy trying to save your electricity. Ephraim, do you have a good enough connection there? Sorry? Go ahead.
I can read. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, awesome. Do you want to do Genesis 6:14-16?
Yeah.
Good.
So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it and coat it with pitch, inside and out. This is how you are build. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof of an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks.
Awesome. All right. So obviously this is Noah building the ark. Directions for building the ark. Would we say detailed or not detailed?
Definitely detailed.
Yeah, right. like specific, this many cubits, that many cubits, you know, leaving below the roof and opening 1 cubit high all around. Yeah, fairly, and even what kind of wood to use. Cypress wood, right? I don't know if that's a rare wood back then. I'm not quite sure, but even what supplies to use. Oops. There we go. Let's see here. Ephraim, are you able, can you read the next one, Genesis 6:17 to 22? Ephraim's been in and out, his connection hasn't been really good, so. I'm not sure he can hear, so. Yeah, Heidi, do you want to read Genesis 6:17 to 22?
Sure. Thanks for printing them all out for us.
Yeah.
I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has the breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons, and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded him.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Yeah. So you see, Noah did everything just as God commanded him. So again, more detail, right? What kind of, even he broke down the different kinds of animals, right? So this would be strategy. Blueprint, this is what he was to build. Strategy, this was how he was, this isn't a drawing, these are instructions, right? And that's what makes strategy. All right. Okay. This next one's quite long. I'll just read it. I'm just going to skim, right? I'm not going to catch everything, but listen to the detail in this, right? So back to Nehemiah, the builder of the wall, right? All right. Eliashib, the high priest of his fellow priests, went to work and rebuilt the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set its door in place, building as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and as far as the Tower of Hananel. The men of Jericho built the adjoining section, and Zakur, son of Imri, built next to them. The fish gate was rebuilt by the sons of Hamassah. They laid its beams and put its doors and bolts and bars in place. Meremoth, son of Uriah, and the son of Hakaz, repaired the next section. And next to him, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, the son of Meshezabel, made repairs. And next to him, Zadok, son of Bana, also made repairs. So I'm gonna zip past this, but see the detail in the recording of what they did, right? Absolute detail. Let's see. I think I'll just skip to the next page. Some of these names are hard to say. Raphael, son of Hur, ruler of a half district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section. Let's skip further. The valley gate was repaired by Hanan and the residents of Genoa. They rebuilt it and put its doors with their bolts and bars in place. They also repaired 1,000 cubits of the wall as far as the dung gate, right? And I'm just going to skip again. Beyond him, Nehemiah, son of Azbak, ruler of a half district of Beth Zur, made repairs up to a point opposite the tombs of David, as far as the artificial pool and the house of heroes. All right. More details. All right. So basically that was an account of a recording of what they did. Who did what? Where were they assigned to? You can even hear the strategy in that. These people or this tribe was assigned to this gate from this point or this wall from this gate to that gate. And this is what they did. So very, very detailed, right? And so that spoke to the strategy, right? Nehemiah clearly was a strategist. He was very specific. There's another part of Nehemiah where he assigns tribes to various parts of the wall, and which gates they were supposed to work on. All right. So, and then we know too. Oh, and I didn't include this one. We know too that once they came under attack, they were assigned, as some versions say, a hammer in one hand and a sword in the other. Other versions say, you know, one man was working while another man was defending with a sword. So very, very detailed strategy. All right. And now let's look at the blueprint and the strategy. Well, here, this is blueprint for when Solomon built the temple, right? Again, this is a long one, so I'm just going to skip through. So it says, in the 480th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, the 2nd month, he began to build the temple. So even the timing was detailed, recorded in detail. The temple that Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 wide, and 30 high. The portico in the front of the main hall of the temple extended the width of the temple, that is 20 cubits, and projected 10 cubits from the front of the temple. He made narrow windows high up in the temple walls against the walls of the main hall and their inner sanctuary. He built a structure around the building in which there were side rooms. The lower floor was 5 cubits wide, the middle floor 6 cubits, on and on and on. Let's see, a stairway led up to the middle level from there to the 3rd. He built the temple and completed it, roofing it with beams and cedar planks. Again, it's like so detailed and so well recorded, right? Here, he lined the interior walls with cedar boards, paneling them from floor of the temple to the ceiling, and covered the floor of the temple with planks of juniper. He partitioned off 20 cubits at the rear of the temple with cedar boards from floor to ceiling to form within the temple an inner sanctuary. He overlaid the inside with pure gold. He also overlaid the altar of cedar. So detailed, right? There's a part where, goodness, where is it now? Now we're talking about the decorations. One wing, the wing of one cherub touched one wall, while the wing of the other touched the other wall, and their wings touched each other in the middle of the room. He overlaid the cherubim with gold. There's a part with pomegranates. Oh, now we're even talking about the flowers. For the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made doors out of olive wood that were 1/5 of the width of the sanctuary. And on the 2 olive wood doors, he carved cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and overlaid the cherubim and palm trees with hammered gold. There's one part where where's the pomegranates? Oh, here we are. He also made 2 doors out of juniper wood, each having 2 leaves that turned into in sockets. More flowers. I must have skipped over the part where this many pomegranates and that sort of thing. So again, very, very detailed. All right. So God is a God of details. All right. Where are we at now? Hold on one second. Oh, right. I know what I wanted to say about this. All right. The other thing that he told us is to lay it out, like make a map of the property. So I'll just show you the map we made of the property that we are continuing to pray about near Indian Brook in Canada. So it's this strip. There's about 70 acres here. And what he said, now here's some direction. He said, make it into zones, divide the kingdom into zones. And so here you'll see basically by color, the orange zone is the farming zone, right? And these are greenhouses, because of course we're in Canada, we can't grow in the wintertime without a greenhouse. All right. All right. And the purple zone, this is the animal zone, right? So if you look in here, the detail that we did, number 6, this is for horses. And number 5, this is for sheep, goat, and alpaca. 13, I think, was chickens. Oh, chickens and rabbits, number 13. And this is a barn, or actually there's 2 barns here. And this is a pond, a pond for them to all drink from. All right. This is the sports zone. Green is the sports zone, right? So here we have, I think 19 was going to be an obstacle, no, paintball, a paintball course here. And number 20, an obstacle course built into the woods with like rope ladders, zip lines, walls to climb up and over, that sort of thing. Number 8 is a soccer field. Number 9, this is a an archery and shooting, target shooting right here. And 10, this is an indoor gymnasium. Just again, in the winter in Canada, you know, we can definitely do winter sports outside, but there's, you know, we can't play soccer outside and things like that, or basketball and that kind of thing. So there's a gymnasium. We even planned it. You'll notice that the archery and shooting range is behind this building. So number 10 would be a building, like a warehouse type building. And the roadway is over here, right over here. This is the roadway. So we hid the archery and shooting range behind this building, out of sight of people driving by. And also between the woods, because there's a highway right here. So people wouldn't be able to see. So it's hidden. Even the noise would be stifled. So this is how strategic we were with planning. We also used, this is woods, trees now, or forest. So we used the natural terrain when we were planning the zones. And let's see here. We also positioned the greenhouses here as blocking the vision from the road, which actually, here, let me move this. Yeah, there's the road right there. And there's the entry to get into the property. We positioned the greenhouses such that it would block the view for people to see back in here of what we were doing, right? So trying to keep some discretion. This is the pink here. This is the business or entrepreneurship zone. These buildings are shops where we would be selling wool products, art. Oh, the market, the vegetable, or the produce market, and that sort of thing. So these were the little shops. Yellow, this is our security. That's an existing building that we were going to repurpose, and we still will repurpose that for security because it's by the front entrance. And again, the purpose of all these buildings here, again, blocking people from the road of seeing all that was happening here, because we need to, again, remember I said, stay, kind of fly under the wire, stay, keep things quiet, right? There will come a time when unavoidably the kingdoms will be so prosperous, and that's where we become a witness, just like King Solomon was a witness to all the nations around, and they came to him to see, what are you doing that's so good? for your people to prosper. But that time is not yet. All right. All right. And then we have, this is an existing house here, number 15, and 16 is an existing, I would call it garage, very large garages slash, we will use this as a temporary barn right here under this orange dot is all that there. 12 is the pool that we will build. 2 is a pond, mainly to keep this area as a kind of garden. And this is the housing zone right here. All the white, those are homes, natural homes. And so this whole area will be built like the Garden of Eden right here. And so this pond here was a natural pond with, you know, just it's beautiful, it'd be pretty basically. And also an irrigation source for the farmland, the farming zone here. So you can see, we did it by color, just color is easy to see, it's fun. But you can see we zoned everything out. All right. And that's important. All right. So keeping, how else did we do this? We wanted, so the livestock are here. We wanted to be able to see the livestock from the main house here. And offices were here, will be here as well, so that we could see if there was any problems or danger or whatever. Why else did we position things? We put the farming zone at the front because this is the flattest land. This land slopes up towards the back, right? And here is the flattest, it's existing farmland is being used as farmland. So the land is fertile there. Plus, from the road, it appears that it's a farm, right? And then they might see the livestock, right? They're not necessarily seeing anything back here, right? And the houses are in the trees, so protected from the visuals from people seeing from the main road. This is a stream. This blue line running down, and it's emptying into this little pond here. We strategically, it's very pretty, first of all, but we mapped it out so that we could just work around it and not disturb it. What else did we do with the planning on this? I think you see where I'm going with that. We did pray and ask for wisdom of how to zone it out, and then this is what came to us. But a lot of it, there were specific reasons. The gray lines are roads right here, like a dirt road. Yeah. Any questions on the zoning? All right. Okay, so blueprint and strategy. Okay, so so you've done the survey the situation, right? The next part, again, blueprint, and then you have from there, you create your blueprint and strategy. All right, so I think at some point we're going to create a template for a business plan. Well, I mean, we do have one. It's very specific. We need to make it a little more general so you can fill in the blanks. All right, for your specific, because writing a business plan is actually, it takes a lot of experience and knowledge to write a good business plan. We need to remember when we're writing a business plan, there's different types. So, you know, there's one type when you're asking for investors or for a bank to borrow money, you write a different type of business plan than if you do for just we need to have a plan in writing, Habakkuk 2:2, right? It's a different kind of plan. So yeah, so we're working on a template that you can just kind of fill in the blanks. But in the meantime, I think it's okay. I would say it's okay right now to do something a bit generalized, right? Not let's writing a business plan is a new thing for a lot of people, and a full business plan can be very daunting and scary. And I don't want anybody to be like, you know, it would be for me when I was in school, opening the math textbook and going, and then closing it, never want to open it again. I don't want you to feel like that. So in the meantime, you can write a business plan, starting with general, and then we can work it to get more detailed. All right. So let's do it in stepping stones, so it's not quite so daunting. All right. So on a business plan, first of all, you always need to say, what is your mission, your vision, your core values, which I think we've gone over now. We know the mission, we know the vision, we know the core values. All right. All right. Who is on your leadership team? That's a must. Identify who are the leaders. And if you can, what their role is. What is their specific role within the team? So you could start saying things like you know, this person is the leader for entrepreneurship. This one's the leader for farming. This one's the leader for, you could do that. But it's good to have a handle on, you know, we did the DISC personality types. What are their personalities? How do they fit in with the team? It's good to really have a good understanding of your leadership team. All right. And how they're going to function within the body. All right. Then, all right. Then identify what mountains will you start with, right? What ones are the easy ones to start with? Or basically here, what ones have you already started with, right? It's what you have in your hand. And then what mountains will you add in year 1, year 2, year 3? Now, I did put that as a timeline. If you'll notice in all the scriptures that we read, none of them had a timeline. Not one of them said year 1, year 2, year 3, not one of them. And so what I notice, let's see. Yeah, so that's an observation from the Bible. So maybe I should correct this and say, what mountains will you add next? So, you know, so let's just say, like, say honest, right? In Malawi. So he's already got this, you know, a version of the sports mountain. He has the discipleship mountain, right? So the next step for them is to get land, right? So, and then once they have the land, what will the next mountain be to start? Anybody? This is one of the first ones everyone should be starting with. Once he has land, what's the first one the next one should he add?
The mapping of the land.
Oh yeah, as part of the plan. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Map it out. But which mountain will he add? So he already has sports, already has discipleship. He's discipling them, the athletes. The next mountain would be, how's he going to start generating some revenue?
Education.
Okay. Or what will you generate money from education? Generate revenue? Okay, so it should be farming. The greater need is for these kids to be fed, right? They need fed. And you actually start their education when you include them in the farming process, right? Preparing the land, planting the seeds, and so on. You're actually already within that process, you're actually starting the education mountain, right? But but then you're also generating revenue through the sale of the produce from the farming, right? It's important that you start generating revenue as soon as possible. All right. So, so that's your scenario in Malawi, right? For the Demessas, Sir Heidi and Raymer. So they have their land. They've got education going, right? They're doing homeschooling for their kids, and they're learning from the farming and so on and so on. They have discipleship started. They have farming started. And let me think now. Am I missing one? So next, I think for you guys, actually right now is a time, as opposed to adding another mountain. Oh, actually, you're going to add solar, right? And I believe you're already on well water. So, so starting solar would be good. Probably for you guys right now, the best bet is getting your plan written and having your strategy of how you're going to where you go from here before you add any more mountains. But I think, yeah, it's good to add your solar mountain for sure. Okay, I'm starting to fade. Okay, so also to include in your rough business plan, your draft one of your business plan, how will you include the children in the building process, right? So, you know, for honest, how are you going to include the children in the farming, right? Then next, how will you register with the government? Are you going to register as a school, as a sport organization, as a nonprofit, as a business, as a social enterprise? Like, so right now, most governments will require you to register. Heidi and Raymer, you guys are really fortunate because it's a homestead, so you don't have to register at this point. So, you know, when you start selling produce, there'll be some sort of registration happening there. So you'll have to consider, are we registering as a nonprofit, which the government probably won't allow you to do in Canada. So you probably would have to register as a business. Might be able to get away with self-employment. Might be able to get away with just filing taxes under self-employment. Have to think about that a little bit. But all right. Then how will you generate revenue, right? Obviously, farming is one. Sale of artwork is another. Honest running tournaments. I know nobody pays for tournaments there, but no, there's got to be a way to figure that out. All right. Oh, here's the big one. Where will you invest 10% of your revenue? So some people call that tithe. I use the word kingdom investment because I see tithe as an investment to grow the kingdom outside of what my own personal sphere, right? Where are you going to invest that? All right. And now here's the tough, well, I love doing cash flow statements, but yeah, you really need a 3-year cash flow projection. All right. So what that is month by month, what is your money coming in and your money going out? In short, that's what it is. And as detailed as possible. I don't have one. Oh, I did one up for the one here near Indian Brook, but I don't have it on my, I'd have to go searching for it. But yeah, you need 3 years of cash flow projections, so you know how much money is coming in, how much money you need to spend. And so there's an accountability in that. There's a, here's the thing. I never invest in anyone, like unless they have a plan, right? I want to see their plan, right? Because otherwise we're throwing money out, right? Because if someone doesn't have a plan of financial responsibility, social responsibility, kingdom responsibility, a written plan, then there's no accountability, right? There's no strategy behind that. And it's not being a good steward. So with a cash flow projection, it's showing that the person, the king or queen, has thought about how they're going to use their money wisely and strategically. All right. And so if I won't invest in anyone that has a plan with cash flow projections and accountability, I kind of think God wouldn't either. So how do I put this? Well, it's the parable of the talents, right? He gave to the three servants, each one according to how well they could manage money. He gave them. And so he knew their abilities from their past or whatever. All right, let's move on. Oh, that's it for today. Whew. All right, I'm kind of fading. All right, so any questions, comments, concerns?
You amaze me.
Oh, okay.
I feel like you must do like a 30-minute warm up before you come on, and then you just go for it. You run the marathon, you inspire everybody, you kick some butt in such a gentle, loving way, and I come away feeling like, okay, we're gonna do this. Come on, team, let's get it on. And I just, yeah, I just feel really, really inspired. And, you know, another thing I want to say is everybody that is on every week, I just want to commend the people, everybody that has an accent, that you'd be willing to do your best to speak English, and you all speak English incredibly well. And I just want to say, from an English speaking background and country, that I really appreciate and honor those of you who have had to learn another language in order to communicate with those who speak kind of the language of the world in a sense. And I just feel like God wants to commend that. So thank you. I appreciate you guys with all my heart.
Thank you.
Amen. Did you want to say something, Honest?
Yeah, for me, it's just to say I have learned a lot of things through today's teaching, and if we can implement all this in our different kingdoms, our kingdoms will be great. And like in Malawi, I promise that I will do all my best so that with the team in Malawi, we can be applying whatever you are teaching us here. And also to my fellow members whom we have been attending Monday trainings. I'm also learning a lot from you guys. Your comments are very important to us in Malawi. We are learning from you, and we'll be also practicing what you guys are doing in different kingdoms. Please let us all work hard in our different kingdoms, and let us build together these kingdoms for the benefit of the church, of the children who are vulnerable in these different communities. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Honest. I love hearing Honest speak. it's like I feel like he always kind of feels like the quietest person in the room. But then when you call on him to speak, when I call on you to speak, Honest, it's like you come out with these golden words, really well spoken and clear and concise, and definitely edifies the rest of us. So thanks, Honest.
Welcome, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and thanks, Heidi. That was quite an encouragement. I think the answer is honestly, when before I've come on a call, usually I've been worshiping for at least 30 minutes. And yeah, that has a lot to do with it. I think, and honestly, I love this. Like, if I could do this all day long, every day, I'd be the happiest person in the world. Like, just casting vision and passing on what we are to do. That and visiting people face to face. Yeah, absolutely. I would be completely in my happy place. So thanks for that. Yeah. God is doing something really, really, I'll say the word amazing, but I feel like that doesn't describe exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, it seems kind of crazy right now, but the day is coming when, how could I describe this? What I see is the day is coming when us Noahs are, the whole world will suddenly see that what we've been building and what we've been doing and the God we've been worshiping and praising, they're suddenly and finally going to see that it's right and it's good and it's where everybody needs to be. Yeah. And God will completely redeem how the world has come against us, ridiculed us, condemned us, yeah, and pushed us into a corner. I don't know everybody's exact situation, but I can speak from my perspective that somehow God is redeeming it all and everything's going to be inverted. So we're just like Noah, building, doing what we know we're supposed to do in the meantime, trusting and believing him for, even if that day doesn't come in our lifetime, that's okay. Then the children that come after us experience that. Awesome. Yeah, I see, Rachel, you have to go. So no problem. We'll see you on Thursday. Awesome. I'm going to stop recording.